Hi, everybody, and welcome to Global Badass Goddess, where we aim to empower and inspire. I'm your host, Glenda, and today we are speaking with Douglas Vermeeren about his new movie, How Thoughts Become Things. It's just come out in 2020 on April 24th, and I'm looking forward to seeing it, so stay tuned. Douglas Vermeeren is best known for his interviews of 400 of the world's top achievers and directing 3 of the top 10 personal development movies, the Opus, the Gratitude Experiment, and the Treasure Map, interviewing great minds like Joe Vitale, Bob Proctor, and John DeMartini. How Thoughts Become Things is gaining a bigger attraction than The Secret, which is one of the most popular personal development movies of all times. So true. Douglas is also a multi-international best-selling author, including his most recent book, Personal Power Mastery. He is a regular featured expert on Fox, CNN, ABC, NBC, and CTV. In Douglas's film, you will see that thoughts affect everything from abundance, quality of health, relationships, and even your own connection to your own self-worth. He covers things like how fear is created and overcome, why people have negative thoughts, why some people think small, why many self-sabotage, how big outcomes are affected to a particular style of thinking, how to build structures to influence powerful thinking, how thoughts and habits are connected to your results, what true empowered thinking is, the fastest way to attract abundance through your thinking. Fabulous. I'm very excited about this movie. If you want to explore more, we'll have in his YouTube channel in the notes below, so you can go there. Before we start our conversation with Douglas, I'm going to say a couple of quotes. And there's one of my favorites, one of my favorite authors. Nothing comes from without. All things come from within, from the subconscious. Neville Goddard. The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it. Marcus Aurelius, Stoic philosopher. Those are a couple of my favorites. So welcome, Douglas. Thank you. Welcome to the show. Really excited that you're here. Yes, thank you.
I love those quotes as well. That was good. Thank you for sharing those.
Yeah, you're so welcome. You're so welcome. So I want to jump in. I got a few questions for you. I want to really start out with what was your desire behind making this movie? Like, where did you start with? What did you where did it start?
Yeah, well, one of the things I'm kind of known for is when I was 19, I did interviews with more than 400 of the world's top achievers.
Yeah.
And obviously, we've done other movies before this, and I've tried to share some of the insights and, how should we say, the success markers that I learned in my time with the top achievers. But what I really noticed is that, quite frankly, unless you begin with your thinking, if you understand how your thoughts really are controlling the whole process, a lot of the other details that we could share really don't matter so much, right?
Yeah.
Because we might be able to do something really effective once or twice, but unless they become sort of habitually how we think about things, how we analyze things and perceive things, we're really only getting half the picture.
Yeah.
So this was a story that needed to be told. That's what I'm trying to say, right?
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, now prior to all your movies, actually, what was your passion? Were you involved in filmmaking? I know you're an author and you're an amazing speaker, and you have great programs, which I love, that I've seen on YouTube. So just like, where did it begin?
Yeah. Well, I guess here's the thing is I may be different than a lot of personal development people that are out there, in the sense that I grew up without personal development, meaning my parents didn't know who Tony Robbins was. My parents didn't. My parents still don't know what The Secret is. My parents, it's pretty funny, right? And so I guess what did my parents know? They were really good at the rat race. They were very good at the poverty pattern. They were very good at trading time for money, and that's kind of it. My father worked in construction. My mom babysat kids in the home. And so I thought that's the way you made money. That's how I was raised. And so when I was about 19, someone gave me the book Think and Grow Rich, and they also gave me the book How to Win Friends and Influence People. So 2 really, really big books. And so because I didn't really know any better, I guess, I decided what I wanted to do after reading Think and Grow Rich was start these interviews with the world's top achievers. And to be honest with you, my intention at the time was never to become a speaker or a trainer or anything. So I wasn't reading any of the other books or going to any seminars. I was just now on a mission to interview these top achievers. So as I got to, for example, like the founders of FedEx or the former CEOs of Nike and Reebok and Disney and the Avita Group and all these big companies, my goal wasn't to kind of learn it to build a seminar. Right?
Yeah.
I was learning it because I was ready to become successful. And so as a 19-year-old, in my first 6 months, I did $1.6 million in business as a 19-year-old. And that's roughly $9,000 a day. So here's where it shifted to personal development. People noticed that I was doing things different than what all these seminars were teaching and what was going on. They said, would you come speak to our group? Would you tell us, like, come and tell us what Richard Branson told you or what you learned with some of these big names? And so I didn't really know. And to be honest with you, I didn't really prepare any notes. I just said, yeah, I'll come talk to you guys. And I kind of thought it was going to be a really sort of, how do we say, maybe just about 4 or 5 people, and we'd sit together and have lunch, and I just share kind of, it was cool to meet Richard Branson. But when I got there was like 400 people. They gave me a microphone, and they're like, okay. And a flip chart, a microphone and a flip chart. I was like, okay. So anyways.
Dive in.
Yeah, and I had no idea what I was doing. So I guess that's kind of a lie. I did know what I was doing because by then I'd made the money, and I'd also met with so many of these people. So I just, for that day, I decided, okay, I'm going to share what I felt were like the 3 or 4 really big things that people need to know.
Yeah.
And then kind of what happened is at the end, I literally got bombarded, if you will, that's the word maybe, by about 7 or 8 people who said, would you please come and speak with our group or our people and everything else. And so honestly, I didn't know. I didn't even know that was a business, right?
Wow.
To be a speaker or coach or whatever. And so what's funny is at the time, many of these top achievers kind of became like literally family members to me. In fact, many of them still are. They're very close friends, many of these, billion-dollar business leaders. And so I quickly got Frank McGuire on the phone. And for those of you who don't know Frank McGuire, he was one of the co-founders of Federal Express. He was the former VP of marketing for all of KFC. He was the former VP of marketing for American Airlines. He helped JFK get elected from the marketing and the publicity. He worked for Lyndon B. Johnson while he was in the White House doing the same thing. He was a personal philosophy teacher to Marilyn Monroe. He was the guy that gave Alan Alda his first job in media, and Ted Koppel and Charles Osgood. And so, he was this was a great guy, but he was like my grandpa.
Wow.
So I called up Frank and I said, I've just been invited to give some more speeches. What should I do? This is kind of fun, but I have no clue. And so he helped me build up my speaking business and showed me how to build it as a business. And I think that this is a big challenge that a lot of like coaches and speakers have, is they're very focused on the delivering of value, which is important and helping people, but most of them don't do it in a way that sustains either them or allows them to build a business out of it. So I did that, and next thing you know, I started getting more and more invites to be a speaker. But even in my own life now, I think the speaking and stuff like that is kind of secondary to who I am. I love to be teaching. I love teaching. That's really a big wow for me. But recently, Money Magazine rated me as the #1 passive income coach in the world. And the reason why is because I really love, it's like almost like, how people like to play Tetris or Gummy Drop or whatever. Yeah. My thing is I love to deconstruct how money is made and make better systems. Yes. And so this is our first year without a job. Like, I don't have a job. But this is my first year doing over, we almost did $14 million this year. And I do that entirely passively. In fact, I'm working with a publisher right now to do a book called The 6-Minute Workday, because I actually don't really work much more than 6 minutes.
Wow.
So somebody was there with a stopwatch the other day, and they actually said that day I did close to 4.
Right.
But yeah, I know how to surround myself with good people and systems and automation and the right things. So here's the big thing I learned in dealing with the world's top achievers. Actually, you want a really funny story, and this will be valuable for your people.
Good.
When I first started in business, I'll never forget. I met with a friend of mine who at the time was worth about $300 million. I was worth quite a bit less. And so as I turned to him and I said, okay, so I want to start this business. How should I find the customers? How should I get the marketing going? How should I do the distribution? How should I, find all these other things? And he says, I can tell you're going to start a really small company. And I said, what? No, I'm going to start a big company, right? And he goes, oh no. you're going to start a very small company. And I was like kind of offended, but I was like, okay, so what do you mean? And he says, well, it's because you're asking selfish questions. I said, well, what do you mean by that? I've never heard that term before, selfish questions. He goes, well, all of your questions end in I. How can I? What will I? How should I? Blah, blah, blah. I. He goes, if you want to become successful and wealthy, you've got to start asking who questions, which sound like this. Who can help me find my customers? Who can do the marketing? Who will do the funding for me? Who will do this? And the more you inject yourself into the company, the more of a small company you'll be. If you become a cog in the wheel, you become a clog in the wheel. So my biggest question now, and this is also even for any of your badass goddesses that are listening, is that you need to learn how to share the in the company. That's the only way you'll scale. Yeah. Right? And I think that this is the thing is most people are so excited that they can have a whole grape. When the truth is you don't want a grape, you want half a watermelon. And half means that you're sharing. And we can never, ever get bigger than ourselves unless we understand that success in any form, whether it's money or anything else, success in all forms is always the result of being part of a team.
Agreed.
Now, again, there are some strategies to make sure that you control the profits that come from the work of the team. That's a different story,
right?
But you need a team to make sure that you're going to be very successful.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I want to jump in with that because you talked about be, do, have, and it is a function of being, and it is a function of knowing your purpose and being able to create team, to create partnerships, in such a way that reflects your being and their being. And I'm so on board with your thoughts and your philosophy, and I feel the same way. So that's why I was really excited to have that conversation.
It's a good point that you kind of make too. And by the way, something that I'm very excited about and pleased about with our work, the work that I've done, is I've discovered a lot of things that are actually quite at odds with what a lot of the gurus of today are teaching. And quite frankly, a lot of the information that people are getting is incorrect and will actually slow you down. And I'm not saying anything against these coaches, but let's follow the trail. Most of them have never ever built a 7-figure business, yet they're teaching people the skills that they claim will do that.
Right.
Most of them have, for example, either gone to see Tony Robbins and tomorrow they're a life coach or a business coach, or they read The Secret and tomorrow they're you're a law of attraction coach. And the barrier to entry for support in this mechanism is very low. So first of all, I'm going to recommend everybody go to a service called Coach Verification so you can know who you're really dealing with. But let's talk about a few things. One of the things that I think if you want to create success that's incorrect is you hear a lot of people right now preaching the idea of you need to take massive action. And they also say you need to wake up and be part of the 5 a.m. club. You need to stay up late. You need to hustle. You need to grind. Like we hear this all the time. Yeah. But the truth is we can always tell that these guys are somewhat imposters because, number one, they'll tell you to work hard and grind, but they won't tell you what to do in that time.
Yeah.
Right? So it tells me that they don't have the full answer. So if you want me to work hard, what do you want me to really do? So here's the thing that I'm going to tell you is I don't want you to work hard. I don't want you to take massive action. I want you to take deliberate, calculated action. Because that's the method. And the idea isn't to do more to get more. In fact, in your life, productivity should always be this, looking for ways to simplify so that you get your time back and your wealth at the same time. So how can I do less but get more? That's the real thing. So don't take massive action. That's a foolish idea.
Agreed.
The other idea that's really stupid right now that's out there, I'm going to use a flip chart here. Let's just draw a circle. I've drawn a nice circle on the board. If you're listening by audio only, circle. Think of it. Inside that circle, I'm going to write 2 letters, P and P. They stand for your passion and your purpose. And you've heard a lot of gurus who say you can be so successful if you just focus on your passion and your purpose. Well, I'm going to tell you, I've met a lot of people who have some really zany ideas of what their passion and purpose is, especially as we go into so many of the different disciplines and some of the woo-woo stuff and all that. I mean, I'm sure it has use, but some of it, we all have to admit, is a little out there. And if you're focused on your passion and purpose, you might be that lonely person in the field with no friends, customers, or support because you're just too way out there. In fact, let's use a non-personal development example. If my passion and purpose was to color coordinate my Beanie Baby collection, who would really care? Right? Like no one's going to support me with a business on that.
Totally.
Now, I love what Warren Buffett once said. Warren once said that what you love about you is your hobby. What others love about you is your business. So what I want to invite you to do is I do think having something that you love and appreciate is important, your passion and purpose, but that's not what you should be looking to build a business for. What you should do, and for those of you who are on audio, I'm drawing another circle that intersects with the first circle. It overlaps it. And in that circle, I'm going to also write passion and purpose. One of these circles represents you. One of these circles represents other people. And what you're looking for now is to find this middle ground where the passion and purpose overlaps the passion and purpose of others. So if you can find where the things that you love, you can find others that love it too. The things that excite you and get you jazzed up, go look for others who get that too. And there's a few cool things that in that overlap, not only will you have your profit there, because people will pay for things when you love it and they love it, and together you can create something that's of value to them, they will pay for that.
Yeah.
But I think more important than the money, and I'm not saying this just because I'm damn filthy rich. I'm saying this because this is more important than the money, okay? The truth is all businesses have hard times, right?
Yeah.
Meaning for you, hard times. There's emotional days where you're like, this sucks, right? There's days where it doesn't go smooth, where the crap hits the fan and you're like, this is just, why am I here, right?
Right.
We all have that, whether you're making money or you're not making money. It's a common thing, I promise. Whether you're worth $10 or worth $10 million, you're going to have days where you're like, man, this is not Christmas. And the thing that's crazy about that is if you do something that you love and it overlaps what other people love, you're going to find validation. And validation is more important than money, because when things are tough and you can see that you're making a difference for people outside yourself, you're going to be excited. And we always rise to the standards of our peers. And so if your peers love your work, like, you know what, I won't lie to you. I've had days where, I felt like, what am I doing making another movie? This is a lot of work. This is a lot of effort. I gotta try to leave my family alone. And then suddenly I'll get a nice little email from somebody that says, I love your movie. It changed my life. Like, I just had this 11-year-old boy send me a message about how thoughts become things. It literally melted me because he said, he said, in the film, you guys talk about fear, right? And he said, at school, man, I got bullies that are just, every day I worry about which way I'm even going to walk home, because they'll probably be waiting there for me. Yeah. And it will be painful physically for me. He says, I'm also worried and fearful about in school. I don't do well in school. I believe I have a learning disability, but I don't know. So what's my future look like? And I don't know what I should take. And then he said this, which was interesting because I never thought about this. He goes, and then I'm looking at all the adults in my life right now, and they're terrified because of what's going on with COVID. Yeah. I see people that aren't working. I see the news where people are panic-stricken. I see people losing their homes. I see all these things. And he says, so I am completely in fear or surrounded by it. But when I saw the film and I saw the purpose of fear, because fear actually has a purpose. Most people don't know that. And fear actually is an empowering mechanism, not a disempowering mechanism when we understand it. And he said, when I saw fear in its proper context, I began to realize I was bigger than my own fears and that I can choose how that I will deal with them. And he also said something interesting about those bullies. He said the reason that they do come after me is because I demonstrate fear, and fear attracts things to be afraid of.
Yes.
And so it was very interesting. But to me, that was a sense of validation because, if I made the movie just because, again, it's a simple cash grab, and I think that's why people make their business sometimes. Oh, I can make some money here. Well, you know what? Yeah, you'll make your money, but once that money's made, to continue to go further, you need something more than money.
Yeah, that's
you need to have a passion
it's mindless. It's being mindless.
Well, and this is the thing too: is people ask me, they say, Doug, you're making $14 million plus a year right now, passive income. Why would you bother still speaking at events or teaching people? It's because I love it. It's my passion. And for anybody who's in your audience right now who's a speaker or a coach, there's something that happens when you get on a stage. I'm not saying you feel like a rock star, but you feel like a rock star. Yeah. Right? Yeah, and totally. Especially if you can help someone else.
Well, it's a contribution. I mean, you're this...
It's a feeling that you can't describe unless you've been there.
Yeah, I totally get it. Yes, 100%.
And you know what? Yes, I'll take the money. I'm not going to, take a pay cut or anything, but I'm definitely not going to exclude the speaking part from my life either, because I feel now like I'm a contributor to people, and I've been able to help a lot of people, certainly with their finances, but even more so with their mindset, which we know that the roots precede the fruits, right? The roots always precede the fruits. So
beautiful. Beautiful. I love that quote. Roots. What did you say? Roots receive the fruits?
The roots precede the fruits.
Yeah, it's
Oh.
wonderful, wonderful. So so in your life, I want to talk about a little bit about a challenge. Like what's been your personal challenge that you overcame?
I do it every day, I suppose. I have challenges all the time, like anybody else, but I guess it has a little bit to do with how you look at challenges, right? A couple things too, maybe just to share. Okay, so from my first movie, The Opus, I had a really interesting experience, almost like an epiphany, right? I kind of, because it was my job at the end of the film to kind of fill in the blanks, to round up the feeling of the film and all that, one of the things we needed to talk about was problems. And so what I was doing is the camera would go on and I would just kind of freestyle it, because I felt like I'd interviewed so many top achievers. I can hopefully, my brain will find something in the files that's pretty good and I'll just share it. And I'll never forget, they turned on the camera and they said, okay, talk about problems. And I said, there's no such thing as a problem. And then I froze and I was like, that's kind of a lie. Wait a minute. Let's scratch that. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, wait a minute. No, run the camera again. I'm just going to go. Let's see what happens. Yeah. And I started going again, and I started the same way. I said, there's no such thing as a problem. Everything is a puzzle. And this is what got interesting. There are solutions for puzzles. And so when we shift the idea of a problem to a puzzle, we start looking at it different. But here's also something interesting. Remember what I said earlier about this selfish questions thing? I think when most people confront a puzzle or a problem, they assume if it's meant to be, it's up to me. And that's, again, a big lie that personal development has put on people, that if it's meant to be, it's up to me. In other words, here's your problem, solve it by yourself. And that's not really the way that the universe works. In fact, I believe that the universe, the biggest lesson it's trying to teach us is learning how to collaborate and cooperate. Yes. And so when we have a problem, and this is the thing that's interesting for me, is my biggest problems, like we all hear the idea that our network becomes our net worth, right? Everybody says this saying. And yes, that's true. I'm not going to deny it. But I think a better saying is your network is your safety net, right? So that whenever you have a problem, there are people around you who can help you. Yeah. And I can't tell you how many times that, when I have a problem, one of the cool exercises that one of my mentors told me that he did. Now, and this was, again, a multimillionaire who'd started several businesses, done very, very well. He says, whenever I have a problem, I start by writing a list of all the people I know who might have an answer to this, right? Like, that's kind of not what most of us are taught. Mm-hmm. Again, in school, if you turn to your classmate in a math test and you say, hey, what's the answer you got there? Well, we're going to be penalized for that. That's called cheating. But in real life, if you were to turn to a friend and say, hey, I don't understand this. Can you help me with this? Sure. If he helps me, you get credit for passing the test. He could be rewarded for doing that. I love what Steve Jobs once said. He said, we don't hire smart people and tell them what to do. We hire smart people so they can tell us what to do. If you really want to make a big change in your life, just start getting better advice from smart people. Yeah. One of my best friends is John DeMartini. He said the quality of your life is always dictated by the quality of the questions you ask. Yeah. And I'm going to add to that. It's not just the questions you ask, but it's who you ask the answers from. Yes. Yes. Right? Agreed. And I think this is it, is we've got to start recognizing that it's kind of like, I don't know. Okay, so I like musicians like, Michael Jackson and Elvis Presley and the Beatles, and just think about all those guys, right? Now, the Beatles is kind of a bit of a rare exception because they wrote most of their own songs. But if you quickly look at the album notes, the inside notes on many of these big people, most of them do not write their own music. That's right. Most of them did not play their own instruments. Most of them are not, the producer on the record, and they certainly didn't distribute it and blah, blah, blah. That's but right. Their name's on the cover. Here's the deal again, guys. And it doesn't even really matter who gets credit, but the truth is you will get credit, but it doesn't mean that you have to do all the jobs. That's right. Right? That's right. And that's the same with problem solving, right? Yep. In fact, what I'm going to recommend is there's really 5 kind of key areas in everybody's lives. We call it self, connection to self, our self-worth, our self-confidence, our spirituality, how we operate ethically in the world and in spirit and things of this nature, our health, right, our fitness, the way we eat, the choices we make, relationships, the way that we connect with other people, and lastly, abundance, which is not just money, but time and opportunity and all kinds of other things. My question is do you have like a person that you go to or a group of people that you go to for support in each of those areas? Yeah. And I'll be honest with you, for example, the person I ask about health concerns is not the guy I ask about money.
No kidding.
The private trainers, like I do mixed martial arts. That's one of the things I do. I do competitive mixed martial arts. But most of those fighters are not multimillionaires that I train with. Right. Most of them are like actors, right, where they have whatever income they have, just enough to get them to the next fight. Yeah. And then the rest of the time they're training, right? But the skill level that they have, the tools that they have in that area of health and fitness are second to none, right? What is it? What is it? That we say is that all of us are wealthy. It just appears in the form we value most. So you find the person that finds that element that you want to duplicate, the person that does value it most, and you duplicate it from there, right?
Yeah, brilliant. Yes.
Yeah.
Gold. Yes. Yeah. Words of wisdom. Thank you so much. Wow, that's so good. So I got a couple more questions before we leave you. My next question is, what superpower would you have and why?
Superpower. Wow. Actually, do you know what? I've thought about this, and something that you might not have known about me, which is kind of strange, is when I was in college, I actually wrote professionally for the comic book industry.
You're kidding.
Right? I did. And in fact, if you Google it, one of the big ones that I wrote was called Super Duper Groovy Space Chicks.
Oh my God, so, I love it.
Google that, Super Duper Groovy Space Chicks. You'll find me. Anyways,
okay.
Some people will think probably that wouldn't fly in this era of the Me Too movement or whatever, but it was fun to write at the time. So here's the deal. I thought about this. What would be the absolute best superpower? Mm-hmm. It would be the power of imagination. Mm. And what do I mean by that is that if you think it, you could create it instantly. If you wanted to fly, all you got to do is think, I'm going to fly. If you wanted, other people to look your way and think, wow, that's one darn good looking guy. Well, all of a sudden, everybody's thinking that, right? So you can control everybody's thought, right? You want to all of a sudden be on a beach somewhere, you just think it and all of a sudden it's there, right? You wanted your bad guys who have your grip tonight and they're following you. All of a sudden, I'm just going to play freeze tag with them. They're frozen, and the grip tonight, I'm going to turn it into Jello, right? Like you just have these imaginations. I think that would be the coolest power of all time, because the only limitation would be what your imagination could create.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing about this is, to some extent, it exists within each of us already.
Yes.
All right.
Right.
So yeah. So that would be my power.
I love it. So far, you're winning on the best superpower. It's very flexible.
You could do anything. Somebody wants to throw a car your way.
Exactly.
Well, turn the car into a nice cloud with a unicorn on the side.
Exactly.
Right? Like whatever you wanted to do.
Exactly. Right? I love it. And I have one more for you. You can finish this sentence. If I could
turn back time. Just kidding. I don't know. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
I don't know. I think the truth is I'm super excited and happy about my life. And so I think probably the biggest thing would be if I could create and maintain even more powerful relationships with people. Yeah. I think that'd be cool. Because I think this is, and I don't just mean, people at the top of, let's call it the food chain of life. I mean with all kinds of people.
Yes.
The thing that's exciting to me, why I do what I do, I think, especially the interview part, is because everybody's got such cool stories within them and so much brilliance. Yeah. And by the way, here's an interesting thought. You hear all the gurus say to become successful, you need to get out of your comfort zone. I think that's crap. I think you need to get into your brilliant zone.
Yes.
And the stuff that you're comfortable with, the things that you don't like, delegate it. Find other people to help you. Get the support. But if you focus on your brilliance, you'll be excited to meet you. And
Absolutely.
I think that's a challenge that a lot of people miss out. They don't really tap into their greatest them, right?
Yes. Brilliant. Would you like to leave us with one more piece of wisdom or a quote or anything before we go?
Okay, so here's something that was told to me, not maybe in these words, but I refined it a bit. We share this in the training that we do of Personal Power Mastery in that book that you talked about. But this is true for whether you want to build wealth, whether you want to build better relationships, whether you want to be more connected to yourself, whatever you want. And that's this: whatever change you're looking to create, if you own it, you can change it.
Yeah.
Meaning if you own where you currently are, you take personal responsibility and you say, listen, you know what? I have power and control. If I don't like this, I can do something about it. And one of the things I love about that idea in the title, Personal Power Mastery, number one, personal is taking it personal. You can't delegate your success to someone else. You can't delegate your life to someone else and receive power, benefit, or a feeling of empowerment there, right? But the second is that word power, which means that we do recognize that we have a choice. We can do something in whatever circumstance we're in, whenever something isn't going right. It's people who are in despair that lose that power of choice, right?
Yeah.
So we've got to recognize we can make a choice. And then lastly, that idea of mastery, it's not doing it well, it's doing it persistently. Because every master was once a disaster. So don't feel like you got to get it perfect. All top achievers are improvisers. They're not perfectionists. Mastery means I'm going to keep trying until I see some results happen.
Yeah.
And even then when those results happen, well, you know what? They may need to be adjusted as well. And it's okay.
Definitely. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's just, that was luscious. So one last thing.
Okay.
Is there a way that we can watch your movie? Is it up? Do we,
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, here, I'll just even turn this a bit so people can see. That is How Thoughts Become Things right
Really
behind
nice.
me.
Yes.
So if people head over to the website, howthoughtsbecomethings.com, they can included several bonuses and gifts. One of the things we didn't want people to do is just watch the movie. So we actually have included a workbook and some other things.
Great.
So that a person can actually, implement the movie. And then, if you like this conversation, like the kind of stuff I'm talking about, you can type my name in Instagram. You'll find me. You can head over to YouTube and you can find me. And we've got lots of great stuff. And certainly if you're interested to make some money and learn how to do it in the ways that I've learned from other top achievers, we've got something right now called the Income Stream Challenge, which is actually a really cool weekly opportunity to hang out with me and some of the friends that I interviewed. I bring them in for interviews again, where they're going to talk to you about some easily accessible things that you can do to make money right away. And again, that's incomestreamchallenge.com. And the cool thing is it's like only $9 a week. It's like nothing.
That's great.
But you immediately get like several $1,000s worth of bonuses that'll send you on the path to incredible success.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's our time, and I really appreciate you. And thank you.
It was good.
Yeah. Thank you for taking the time.
Anytime.
Your 4 minutes. So, okay. Well, thanks so much, and thank you everybody for listening, watching, and we will see you next week for another dynamic, sexy, badass interview.
Love it.
Thank you.